The night was alive with the howl of wind and the crackle of flames that devoured the old wooden house like a ravenous beast. Out in the vast Wyoming plains, where stars usually blanketed the sky in quiet peace, a glow of unnatural orange lit the horizon. Cole Ramsey, a weathered cowboy with a heart as tough as saddle leather, reined in his horse, Rusty, at the sight. He'd been riding home from a late cattle drive, bone-tired and craving his bunk, when the acrid smell of smoke hit him. But it wasn't the fire that froze his blood, it was the faint, desperate cry cutting through the roar of the blaze. A girl's voice, raw and pleading. Cole's boots hit the dirt before he even thought to move, his pulse hammering as he sprinted toward the inferno. The house was a skeleton of itself, beams groaning under the fire's relentless assault. Cole shielded his face from the heat, scanning the chaos, when he saw her, a slight figure crawling through the dirt, her clothes singed, her face streaked with soot and tears. She couldn't have been more than 15, her blonde hair matted with ash, her eyes wide with terror. She collapsed just beyond the porch, gasping, "Help, please." Cole dropped to his knees beside her, his calloused hands gentle as he checked her for injuries. "You're safe now, darlin'," he said, his voice steady despite the dread coiling in his gut. "What's your name?" "Ellie," she choked out, her body trembling. "My dad, he did this." The words hit Cole like a punch. He glanced back at the house, now a furnace of flame, and felt a sick certainty that no one else was coming out alive. But Ellie's eyes locked on his, pleading. "He's still out there." He ran, after he lit it. Cole's jaw tightened. He scooped Ellie into his arms, her slight frame shivering against him, and carried her to Rusty. He draped his jacket over her shoulders, tethering the horse to a nearby fence post. "Stay here," he told her. "I'm gonna get help." But Ellie grabbed his sleeve, her grip fierce. "Don't leave me. He'll come back." The fear in her voice was a knife to his heart. Cole had seen plenty in his 40 years, stampeding herds, bar fights, even a twister that tore his family's barn to splinters, but nothing like the raw panic in this girl's eyes. He nodded, promising, "I ain't going far. You're with me now." He pulled his radio from his belt, calling for the sheriff and fire crew, his voice clipped but calm. As they waited, Ellie's story spilled out in halting whispers. Her father, Tom Hargrove, had been a mean drunk for years, his temper a storm that left bruises on her and her late mother. That night, he'd come home raving, dousing the house with gasoline after a fight about Ellie wanting to leave for good. "He said if he couldn't have me, no one would," she murmured, her voice breaking. Cole's fists clenched, but he kept his anger locked tight, focusing on keeping her talking, keeping her present. He told her about Rusty, how the old gelding once outran a coyote, anything to distract her from the nightmare behind them. The fire crew arrived first, their sirens a distant wail that grew into a roar. Sheriff Dan Wheeler pulled up soon after, his face grim as Cole relayed Ellie's story. The firefighters battled the blaze, but the house was a lost cause, reduced to smoldering ruins. Ellie sat in the sheriff's truck, wrapped in a blanket, as Cole stood nearby, his eyes scanning the dark plains. Tom was out there, a coward who'd torched his own home and left his daughter to die. Cole's instinct screamed to hunt him down, but Ellie needed him more. She was alone now, her mother gone, her father a monster. He couldn't fix that, but he could make damn sure she felt safe. Days passed, and Ellie stayed at Cole's small ranch, the only place Sheriff Wheeler could think to put her while social services scrambled. Cole's place was simple, a weathered cabin, a barn, and a corral for Rusty and a few other horses. He wasn't used to company, let alone a teenage girl who flinched at loud noises and woke screaming from nightmares. But Cole, who'd lost his own daughter to a car accident a decade ago, felt a fierce protectiveness over Ellie. He gave her his daughter's old room, still untouched, with its faded quilt and shelf of books. Ellie barely spoke at first, her eyes hollow, but Cole didn't push. He cooked her eggs each morning, taught her to brush Rusty, and sat with her on the porch at dusk, letting the silence be enough. The challenge came when Tom was spotted. A rancher 10 miles out reported a man matching his description stealing food from a shed. Sheriff Wheeler organized a search, but Cole knew the plains. Tom could hide for weeks in the gullies and scrub. Ellie's fear returned full force, her hands shaking as she begged Cole not to join the hunt. "He'll kill you," she whispered. Cole wanted to tell her Tom was just a man, not a demon, but he saw the truth in her eyes. To her, he was both. Instead, he promised to stay close, though it nodded him to let a coward like Tom roam free. Cole's resolve was tested one stormy night when Rusty snorted and pawed in his stall, sensing something wrong. Cole grabbed his rifle and stepped into the rain, his boots sinking into mud. A shadow moved near the barn. Tom, gaunt and wild-eyed, clutching a knife. "Where's my girl?" he slurred, reeking of whiskey. Cole leveled the rifle, his voice cold. "You lost the right to call her that. Walk away, or you don't walk again." Tom lunged, but Cole was faster, slamming the rifle butt into his jaw. Tom crumpled, and Cole tied him with rope from the barn, dragging him to the porch to wait for the sheriff. Ellie watched from the doorway, her face pale but resolute. "He can't hurt me anymore," she said, more to herself than Cole. Tom was arrested, charged with arson and attempted murder. Ellie testified, her voice steady despite the tears, and Cole sat in the courtroom, proud as if she were his own. The trial was a turning point, but Ellie's healing was slower. She struggled with guilt, wondering if she'd provoked her father, and Cole spent long evenings reassuring her that none of it was her fault. He introduced her to his neighbor, Miss Clara, a kind widow who taught Ellie to bake bread, giving her a sense of normalcy. Slowly, Ellie's smiles returned, small at first, then brighter, especially when she rode Rusty across the plains, her hair catching the wind. Social services eventually found a foster family in town, but Ellie begged to stay with Cole. He hesitated. He was no parent, just a loner with a battered heart, but Sheriff Wheeler pulled strings, and Cole became her legal guardian. The ranch became her home, the horses her solace. Ellie started school, made friends, and even joined the 4-H club, showing Rusty at the county fair. Cole watched her grow, her resilience a mirror to his own buried strength. He'd saved her from the fire, but she'd saved him from a life of quiet grief. Years later, as Ellie prepared for college, she and Cole sat on the porch, the same stars above them. "You gave me a life," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I was crawling out of that fire, but you made me stand." Cole, never one for words, just squeezed her hand. "You were always standin', darlin'. I just held you up till you knew it."